Today is July 30th, 2014, and we are interviewing Robert F. Blickhan at Quincy, Illinois. Mr. Blickhan, how old are you?
92.
And what is your birth date?
September the 23rd, 21.
My name is Christopher Schultz, and I'll be your interviewer today, Mr. Blickhan. Where were you born?
In Monroe County in Missouri.
Okay. And
on a farm.
who were your parents?
Matthew Blickhan, and my mother was Clara Wolf Blickhan.
And what were their occupations?
Farmers, agriculture.
Did you have brothers and sisters?
Yes.
Who were they?
Mary, Hilda, Elsie, Martha, my sister, and Delbert, Joseph, and Tony, and Leo.
Are any of them still alive?
Just Martha.
And did any of your brothers and sisters serve in the military?
All three of my brothers.
And what service branches did they serve in?
Oldest brother Joe was in the infantry. Tony was in the Air Corps. That's where they had Air Force. And Leo was in the Air Force.
Were they all World War II veterans?
Leo wasn't.
Did he serve later?
Yes.
What was your occupation, or what were you doing before you entered the military service?
Just growing up on a farm.
Is there anything about your experiences growing up on the farm that you would like to tell us as they relate to your military service?
Well, not really, I don't think. Some things growing up was pretty tough in them days. I remember the dust storms that turned the sky dark. That's the worst things I remember. I lost my mother when I was 7 years old.
Can you tell us about how you entered into military service and some of your earliest experiences after you entered the military service?
Well, I was after boot camp. We went through a test to, see what they use most of the best place for them to put you, and they selected me to go to be a mechanic on diesels, and they sent me down to Richmond to go to school down there. And it's kind of a disappointment because I was there for 6 weeks and never got to see a nut or a bolt or a wrench or anything. Only was using World War I booklets to study out of, which was useless for the World War II. But I was lucky enough, out of the 36 in the class I was in, I come out high enough so I got to raised up to 2 pay grades, which was good for me. And about the same time that I first enlisted, our wages was $21 a month. And about 1st of October, when they raised it up to 50, and I got out of school and same time, so I was well off financially. So only thing was the pay roll was lost, and we went for a couple of months without any pay. So that's all growing up in the Navy, I guess.
What was the highest rank you achieved in the Navy?
First class, motor machinist, mechanic.
And did you enlist, or were you drafted into the Navy?
I enlisted. The draft is after this. I think I was going in July, report to the or my Army detail, and I enlisted and left for the Navy on the 17th of June. So
Do you remember 17th of June of what year?
42.
And why did you choose the Navy
I
to
didn't.
enlist?
I wanted a wet bed and didn't want a wet bed. So the Navy just sounded more, well, more appealing to me. I never regretted to have done that.
Do you recall who your instructors were in Richmond?
My bootleg instructor was a fellow by the name of Abrahamson. That's all I know about him. So
You used the term bootleg instruction. What does that mean?
what did I say?
Did you use
Boot
the
camp.
term, oh,
Boot
boot
camp.
camp, I'm sorry.
Did I say bootleg?
My hearing might not have been good on that. How did you get along with your instructors
All
at
right,
boot
all
camp?
right, yeah. I one week I got pulled out of to work in mess hall. About the third day, officer come through and it says that the company that I was from had one too many men working in the mess hall, and they asked my boss who the best worker was, and what do you know? He pointed to me, and he says, "Go back to the barracks and have fun the rest of the week."
And
So
how did that make you feel?
I felt pretty good about that.
How did you adapt to military life, including the physical regimen, the barracks, the food, the social life, when you enlisted?
Oh, I didn't have no problem with it. Sometimes it's kind of irritating, but it wasn't too bad.
What was it like being a kid fresh off the Missouri farm, getting acquainted with people from other walks of life?
Well, uh, it wasn't too bad. I didn't have much to do with the civilian population. You know, we pretty well on base most of the time, and you just had to take the orders.
After you received your training in diesel mechanics, what was your next job or assignment?
Well, it was sent from there. We were sent down to a place in Virginia they called Little Creek, where we went through amphibious training, and that was kind of rough at times. Amphibious, that was train them so they began to handle the landing craft and that when they made island landed. And whatever we trained on down there was the 36-foot, what they called them boats, dress craft. Uh,
Did you say death traps?
Chris Craft.
I'm sorry, Chris Crafts.
That was the manufacturer, the name of
Yes.
the boat. That's capable of handling infantry or small light jeeps or trucks or artillery. It had a front end of it had an open end and drop down for it'd be a ramp, and it'd drive them up on the beach as far as it could, drop the ramp and dump them out.
How
But that
long?
lasted 6 weeks, and trained day and sometimes they're out burned all night in the dark. They take you out and Chesapeake Bay and say, "Now find your way back to the beach," and this and that. And in rain or shine, well, it's in it. I'm glad when it's over with.
Uh, You were glad when the training was over?
Yeah, at Little Creek, yes.
What was your next assignment after Little Creek?
Well, we were put on a train and sent us out to the West Coast. We had a, there was nothing secret about our trip out there. I don't know. I often wondered if it was kind of a decoy. The, it, the train had, was, well, the type that had the night bunks, you know. It didn't have sleep in the chairs or, and, it took us, 7 nights and 6 days to make that trip. The first day was we left Norfolk on the evening, and by the next evening, all the further we had got us down to Michigan, Georgia, and of course we stopped there and had evening lunch. All every big railroad station in had the Fred Harvey restaurants, and we had our evening meal there, and to surprise us, my officer says you're free to go until be back on train by midnight. And you can imagine turning 250 sailors loose to probably be on their last good evening. Uh, Probably a lot of secrets are broken.
And what town was that in?
Macon, Georgia.
Macon, Macon, Georgia.
Yeah. We went out there and had landed in San Francisco and spent a little time and with Treasure Island and the Bay with San Francisco Bay, and then we went aboard the USS Pinckney.
What
And
type of vessel was the Pinckney?
Combat Hospital.
That's Pinkney.
Pinkney, APH-2.
And what was your assignment on that vessel?
I was part of the landing craft boat crews.
And how many landing craft did the Pinckney carry?
18. 18.
Is that 18 landing craft or 18 crew members?
Well, each craft had a crew of 3. It was 18 landing craft.
And what was your specific assignment on the landing craft crew?
Well, I was part of the crew that I was worked on my first. They had a coxswain. He was a skipper of the craft. He was in charge, and they had the fantail mechanic and the bow man was who was responsible for taking care of the motor. If he landed on a sandy beach and the diesel engine was cooled by using seawater, sucking up seawater and percolating it through what they call a heat exchanger on the engine, and then he didn't have no radiator then like a car, to cool the engine. And they had what they call sand traps there to filter the water as it came up for all that sand through the motor. And if it happened to land on top of a sandy place, well, it kept you busy changing. You had 2 traps to fit back and forth. You'd have to open it up and clean out the sand and get it ready. By the time you got that ready, the other was plugged up in there. And sometimes it's pretty impossible to keep up. But that was, if you wanted to pull onto a dock or something, it was the responsibility of the stern person to take a hold to mooring line and fasten it to the whatever dock was there to fasten it to. And same way with the bow hook person, he had to take care of hooking up the front end of the craft.
You described some of the officers. I think you said one of them was a coxswain. Is that Coxswain?
Yes.
And what was the other officers that you?
Well, there wasn't none of them officers, all listener men.
Right.
And most generally there was anything from apprentice seaman up to first class.
Okay, that was apprentice seaman to first class.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
So the enlisted men had designations such as a coxswain, but you said a couple of others that I didn't quite catch.
A bow hook personnel, and then I was a stern mechanic for the crew.
What was the port or destination that the Pinckney was headed for?
Well, we left San Francisco, went down to San Diego and picked up the 2nd Marine Anti-Aircraft Battalion. And we loaded up all their equipment and all their anti-aircraft guns and everything, and headed out to we stopped at Pearl Harbor and unloaded the personnel of this company and took on the personnel from Company 1 and had more training and headed for the Southwest Pacific.
What do you know approximately what date you would have arrived at Pearl Harbor?
No, I can't tell you. It was in December yet. I can't tell you.
Would it have been December?
I had a schedule of all the ports and the time it arrived and when it departed, but I can't find that book.
Would it have been the same year, 1942?
Yes.
What was the condition of Pearl Harbor at that time?
The only thing I remember mostly about it, you had to wear a gas mask yet if you left off the ship. I don't know why that was, but that was part of the rules. It was pretty desolate yet.
How long did you stay at Pearl Harbor before embarking once again?
About 5 days.
And from Pearl Harbor, what was your next destination?
The next place to stop was at Espiritu Santo in the New Hebrides Islands.
Espiritu Santo?
Mm-hmm. That was the name of I think probably was a village there, but I never did see it or hear it. But
and Espiritu, is that Espiritu?
Don't ask me. That sounds good enough.
And that is in the New Hebrides chain?
Yes. Yeah.
Had you been given any instructions or any information about your ultimate assignment at that point?
No. Didn't know where it was going until it pulled into which was a beautiful place. So peaceful.
Was that a large island?
It's in a war out there.
Was there a naval base there for the?
Well, it's just one they made up after the war started. It was owned by the British. Coconut trees by the thousands.
How was the experience on board the ship as you were making this long voyage?
Well, it was I don't know. The fair share of got seasick, but it never seemed to ever bother me. I was lucky. And of course, we had to have, was always drilling and practicing anti-aircraft fire and this and that. And it was in a small convoy. And, going from San Diego to Pearl Harbor run into the stormy weather, and one of the ships in the convoy was a Great Lakes car ferry, what they call a Great Lakes car ferry, and he had loaded those fighter planes, carried them off to Honolulu. So it couldn't keep up, so this 2 days late getting into Pearl Harbor. The rest of the way out, of course, you went through to, what do they call it, what time change, where maybe you get up in the morning and it's such and such a date, and then by noon it's just some date, it's the day before, ahead of you. The day we just had a few hours. Whereas
You passed through the international date
the
line.
international date line, you're helping me out there.
Tell us a little bit about the naval initiations that you experienced at that time.
Initiations? Well, never at that time. There wasn't no initiations at board our ship. There might have been some other ships. I don't know. You just had to learn to take care of it.
Did they have any interesting customs or practices on board ship that were new to you, being from the farm in Missouri?
Not really, no.
After you arrived at the island in the New Hebrides, what was your next experience?
I was there for a few days and joined up with a small convoy and went on up to Guadalcanal.
Guadalcanal?
Yes, that was a hot spot of the Pacific at that time.
And did you see active combat duty at Guadalcanal?
No, we had probably a couple of submarine alerts on the way up there, but other than that, it was a pretty good routine voyage.
What was the purpose that your vessel served by going to Guadalcanal?
We were just moving we still had the personnel from the 1st Marine Aircraft Division aboard, and we took them up there, and we was there a couple of days and moved on up to Florida Island Group, which was about 450 miles from the Japanese base or a ball, New Britain, and landed on that. And then after unloaded them there without incident, went on back down to Guadalcanal, and from there to I think we probably went back to New Hebrides Islands. I don't remember from exactly just where we went.
Did you form friendships and establish camaraderie with your fellow sailors during that time?
Oh, pretty much so. Pretty all the people, all the personnel that was hooked up with the engineering force, kind of hung out together. And the deck crew, they probably hung out together much. And we had about 135 hospital corpsmen aboard, and that was, they had their group. That's the way it was.
Did your ship take on wounded veterans?
Oh, yes, they did.
And where did that occur?
Well, they occurred at, I guess the first time was, got involved very much was the landed troops in the Central Solomon Islands uh, wasn't too many, it wasn't too large an operation. They took on some wounded people there and brought them back to General Hospital. Well, I guess, I don't know where the General Hospital was anymore then. Probably maybe down in New Mayo, Caledonia. But from there, we really got into it with most casualties was when they hit the Mariana Islands, it took over Saipan and Guam, which belonged to the United States, and what's the third one? Where the Angola Gay took off from. Well, anyway, them three islands, it was probably a pretty big operation, and we made a couple trips back and forth from the General Hospital to there. But the worst one was Peleliu Islands.
Did you use your landing vessel to pick up and rescue wounded soldiers?
Oh yeah, yeah. If you took in the healthy ones, when he brought out the broken ones.
Did you come under enemy fire while you were attempting to land
Oh yes, yes.
the craft?
It was, you know, the beaches were still, occupied with the Japanese, and they naturally it was firing as much skin, not necessarily right at my craft, but in general, you know.
How was your craft defended when it was undergoing those evacuation operations?
Well, they had probably some of the battleships or cruisers or destroyers out there hammering away at the landing area, and he's probably when they started bringing in the troops, so they kind of moved their fire back, from away from the beach. So that's where he got their protection. We didn't carry no guns or anything with us, no machine guns or nothing. We were pretty much for the taking.
Was it mostly United States Marines that you were evacuating?
No, Marines and Army, whatever. Marines was in the Solomons, and it's mostly Army for the Mariana operation. There's Marines for Peleliu, Army for pretty much. So Army had a lot more personnel out there than Marines did.
Did you have close contact with the casualties as they were being evacuated?
Oh yes, I mean it's up to us to, if they had to be carried on a stretcher, to help load them on stretchers and get them aboard the boat, or if they were able to walk, it helped them on. And they took them aboard the ship, and we had two operating rooms and one emergency room. And the corpsman went to work, and had a crew of doctors from about 18 to 20. They all got busy.
Were the landing craft the only way to get those wounded soldiers off the island and onto the hospital ship?
Well, they had different methods. They had what they call the ducks. The Army had them. And they could, uh, was able to travel from the ship to shore, and then they could run up on that dry land and go on from there. And mostly by landing craft, it moved them out.
A duck was an amphibious motorized vehicle.
Yes.
Uh, did you have any personal experiences evacuating these wounded soldiers that you would like to relate to us or preserve that stand out in your mind?
Beg your pardon?
Do you have any personal experiences that stand out particularly that you'd like to share with us about evacuating these wounded soldiers?
Well, it go alongside a ship, and the ship had to pick up these landing crafts, and it depends upon how, if they had to be stretchers carried back aboard ship, or they had they could open up some hatches and on the side of the ship and take them right directly into the operating section of the medical. I mean, near the uh, operator room, whatever you want to call them, and from there on,
What about the landing
you kept
craft?
them aboard ship until they get to a general hospital ship someplace. I mean, on some island, and take them off there.
How were the wounded soldiers transported from the Pinckney to a land-based hospital?
Well, most generally, you could tie up to a dock. They take them right off and down to the ambulances. And they take them to the hospital from there. So the general hospital personnel took charge when the ship tied up to the dock.
I have another question about your landing craft. How was it equipped in terms of transporting the wounded veterans? Were they on the deck of the craft, or did they have uh, bunks where they could put the stretchers, or how did that work?
Mostly it's on the deck. Just lay them down, and maybe they could had a rack. They put one stretcher on each side of the boat, but they it didn't have the best of care. They just tried to get them moved before they could get better care.
Were there medical personnel on the landing craft themselves?
No, no.
And how far on average would the Pinckney have been from the shore that you would have to travel in these landing craft to get to the beach?
Oh, it varied. Varied from day to day, maybe. I'd say 5 miles to 1 mile or something like that. You might be here picking up casualties one area of the beach, and the next day you'd be on down the line for maybe 15, 20 miles.
How did you keep in contact with family and your loved ones back in this area while you were so far away?
No, by letter. No telephone. No radio.
How often did you get letters?
Well, it varied. Depending upon what islands you pulled into and where the mail was going to. I one year got Christmas mail in July.
How did that make you feel?
Well, it was water soaked, so I didn't even know where it came from outside of it. It comes from Quincy, Illinois. Other than that, you couldn't tell who sent it.
What did you do for recreation or fun when you were off duty?
Played pinochle, mostly.
Did most of the other sailors know how to play pinochle?
Well, you know, we were at sea most of the time. We very seldom stayed in port very long. Very seldom it was allowed what they call liberty for the crew, and we logged close to 300,000 nautical miles always out there. So a lot of times you wasn't traveling over 9 miles an hour in convoys. You can realize or imagine how much time we spent out at sea. I traveled unescorted most of the time. The ship was a little faster, had a cruising speed of 23 knots, and they considered that probably fast enough so a submarine wasn't too much of a problem.
I noticed you had I believe it's called a Naval Commendation Award among your decorations. Can you tell us how your outfit received that award?
How?
Yes.
Well, uh, I didn't know nothing. I didn't know nothing about that until I got discharged. How, of course, the ship got hit 27th of April in 45, and we lost all the records, everything. And from that time on until I reported for duty at the Lambert Field in St. Louis, there's nothing in my record at all. And that's all nothing. I don't know. You follow me?
Well, I believe that St. Louis was a repository for an extraordinarily large number of
Well, I got
military records.
I got two of them awards. Did you got two of them?
Could be. Can you tell us about anything you know about how those awards were given to your unit?
Well, the one from St. Louis, I didn't get. Well, I was discharged for I don't know, maybe 3 or 4 weeks or something. I come in the mail. That's the first I knew about that award. Well, I guess because they converted a training Air Force, Navy pilot training base there into a discharge center, and they was pushing them through, trying to get the people to discharge as fast as others. We put in some long hours and weekends, and I guess they decided we'd done a good job.
A lot of your commendations and your decorations are related to the liberation of the Philippine Islands. What's your understanding of your role in that effort?
Well, routine, like many of the other islands. we hauled in troops, army troops, and landed them on Leyte and Luzon, two different islands. And it wasn't much,
Where were you when you received word that the war had ended?
home. I was at home after we got back to San Francisco, and I got a 30-day leave. I was home when the war ended.
Do you know why your particular ship or your unit was dispatched back to the United States before the end of the war?
And back there for repairs, rebuilding.
Is that because the Pinckney, as you say, was hit?
Yes, the whole superstructure was pretty destroyed. It lost all our power. It was for several days there. We had no power, no lights, no water, and very little to eat. And if you wanted to use the toilet, you had to take a 5-gallon bucket and throw it over the side and pull the bucket of water back so you could flush the toilet. No showers.
What
And
were
yeah,
you
like I
on?
said,
I'm sorry.
the ship had to be run by the station on the fantail. The grid part was all gone.
Were you on the boat when it was hit?
Yep.
What caused the damage?
They figured it had a 1-ton bomb. It was a suicide plane, 2-engine Betty plane. I figured it had a 1-ton bomb.
Did it
Exploded.
hit the Pinckney directly?
Right.
Was there loss of life?
Well, not too great. I just forget, but I never did hear exactly. Some personnel never did find. And
What did you hear or feel when that bomb hit your boat?
but, well, I was last thing I had done was pumping diesel fuel up to the main deck, and on the main deck they had a 2,500-gallon tank to store diesel fuel, so they could fuel their boats when they come along and needed fueling. And I just finished that, walked up through the galley and see what I was going to have for breakfast. And got back on the main deck there, and had a little chat with a couple of guys sitting there. And I says, "Boy, I'm going to see if I can slip down and take a shower and get a little rest, because it's pretty hectic there at Okinawa." And I just ready to step into the shower, and it hit. Lights went out, everything lost all power, and the explosion of the bomb, fire, shot and the stuff flying, punched several holes into that diesel fuel tank, and the fuel was flooding out over the deck and caught on fire. And I said they could see the fire for 25 miles away. They fought the fire until finally brought it under control at 2 o'clock in the morning.
Did you have a specific duty that you had learned through drilling previously that you were assigned to do in the event something like that happened?
No, whatever, something like that. I got a warning of planes or submarines or anything that what they call battle stations. The crew had their own stations. Mine was go down below decks and be in the evaporator part. until later on, after I got up to higher pay grades, so I was assigned to stay aboard and stand by in their shop.
When this ship was hit, were you still in the area of Okinawa?
Yes, yes. We had been after, well, D-Day was first day of April. We landed our troops on Okinawa, and there was very little opposition, a surprise. And after a couple weeks or so, they moved us over to the, well, I'm not sure what the name of the islands was. It was close to Okinawa. It was more of a protective, well, we couldn't call it a harbor, but it had some mountains around it. We was there in that area, and we was served at a floating hospital and whatever we could do to mostly destroyers or mine layers or whatever that come in for fuel, and most of them had damage, and maybe have to take the wounded off, and maybe go down, work down below decks and get them. So they did, but and I don't know.
Is it
It was you know, it was around the clock, 7 days a week. We was they're sending them suicide planes over. I mean, not, I know a couple of times there they claimed they shot down over 250 of them.
was there anti-aircraft crew on your boat that was in charge of defending the boat from
Yes, it was.
attack?
Well, just general purpose 3 and 5 inch guns that had 20 millimeter anti-aircraft guns. But then most of them all they ever used them for was that aircraft.
Is it safe to say that your boat followed the land battles as the American forces advanced towards Japan?
Yes, it was usually as a float hospital. Used as after they got rid of the troops, it was used as a floating hospital. Worst part about our ship is that when the troop ships or cargo ships got unloaded, they could pull out. But we'd have to probably stick around there for maybe a couple of weeks till they get a land base, you know, medical center.
And did the Japanese aircraft attacks increase as you moved farther up towards the Japanese mainland?
Well, I don't know. The first one showed up when it was going up through the, I guess it's China Sea, going to land troops on Luzon. There's a couple of them showed up then. That's when they showed up, and it didn't bother too much until Okinawa.
And Luzon is Luzon. That's one of the main Japanese or Philippine islands.
Yes. Yes.
What were your emotions and thoughts when you heard that the Japanese had finally surrendered?
No, glad.
And you were at home at that time,
Yes.
correct?
Yes. Yes. And I don't remember any celebrations like they had in the big cities. Everyone was glad, I guess. It's over with.
How did your family and friends react when you did come home?
I guess I guess they're glad to see me. I, you know, it's,
Did you have any difficulties adjusting to civilian life after your service
no,
was completed?
no.
Do you stay in contact with any of your veterans, fellow comrades?
You know, some of them, yeah, yeah. They're all dead though.
Uh, are you active in any veterans organizations?
Uh, I belong to, I'm a lifetime member to the American Legion and Veterans of Foreign Wars.
What
When I was active in it, but you know, can't do that anymore.
what did you? How were you employed after the war?
I went to work as a mechanic for Burlington Railroad in Chicago.
The Burlington, what is now the Burlington Northern?
Yes,
Back then it was called the Burlington Route, I believe, correct?
Burlington, CB&Q.
CB&Q Railroad,
Yeah,
correct?
Chicago, Burlington, Quincy.
And were you a mechanic there for your entire career?
No, 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 I didn't stay long. Well, I didn't like Chicago, and I his opening opened up in Burlington, Iowa, so I bid that job in, and I liked that. It was just about 90 miles from home, but then a returning serviceman bumped me out of there, so I fiddled around for several years, worked on the farm for 3 years, and finally got to work for Gardner Denver Company.
I believe you mentioned that you are also a veteran of the Korean era.
Yes,
Did you re-enlist
I
or
belonged to Naval Reserve. And they called out.
and what type of duty did you serve during that portion of your military career?
Same thing. Same thing on an amphibious boat landing craft. I was assigned to, went back to after, went through the indoctrination, re-enlisted, and sent down to Little Creek, Virginia, all places to get sent to for amphibious training. And then I went aboard the USS Truman, which was a cargo ship, which was what they done was we spent most of the time training Marines for amphibious landings. But take them down to Caribbean Sea, to Island Viegas, and use the beaches there to land on, practice landing. If it's the first trip down there, why you just practice landing, rain or shine, storm or what, you'd have to land in the morning and pick them up about noon, and land them again in the afternoon and pick them up in the evening for about 3 weeks, and take them back up to the base in Paris Island, where Marines base was on the East Coast there. And the second trip down there was practice unloading over equipment and that, or again, all kinds of weather. And the third trip where they had went inland and practiced capturing the base. It was kind of wasn't too bad a duty. It wasn't too bad a duty. Maybe one time or a couple times we Marines is going to be on the base there for a week or so, and we got to go over to Panama, Cologne, Panama was the base, and something new. It's probably one time I went down to Columbia, Main Island. I can't think of the name of the city. But well, Columbia, Venezuela was Columbia. I think had went into Venezuela and captured some of the drug lords, and they were about to mix it up. So they sent about 4 ships in this crew that was landed practicing the Marines and put them ashore there. Had put about 5,000 Marines ashore there for a few days. It's going to kind of quiet down.
Do you know approximately what date that would have been?
Oh, mercy. That would have been some. Oh, I couldn't be accurate, no. It's sometime between when I was called back to do it until I got discharged in 52,
Okay.
August.
And
One time I went to 2nd of January, the convoy went to the North Atlantic up above Greenland and the Russian Siberian coast for night submarine maneuvers, which was a pretty powerful convoy up there. Battleships and a couple of aircraft carriers and anti-aircraft cruisers, submarines. That was just a cover up. I think they wanted to go up there to spy on Russian submarines because that's where they tested all their new submarines, and I think that's what they're up there for because they had the latest submarines and the latest destroyers with their latest sonar equipment and to listen to them. But it was January and the coldest has got is 67 below. The warmest has got is 56 below. So, and it could snow. My goodness, snow.
was that on the same ship that you described earlier?
That Thuban?
Yes.
Yes,
Well, can you say the name again?
Thuban. Thuban.
Thuban?
Yes.
And it was primarily a cargo vessel?
Yes. Well, they'd carry troops, some, but not very many. Probably not more than 500.
When were you discharged from the Navy a second time?
I believe it was the 27th of August in 52.
And what did you do when you went back to civilian life after that?
Well, I went back. I had been working for Gardner Denver Company in Quincy, and I went back to work, and they said that my job had been discontinued while I was gone. I had quite a fuss with them for. I didn't get back to work until February, I think. Veterans Administration, they battled for me. Finally, uh, they convinced Gardner Denver would owed me a job, so I got back to work there. I stayed there until a little short of 35 years.
And have you been retired since then?
Yes, yes. Be 30 years in October, I retired.
While you were in the Navy, how did you like the food?
Yes and no.
What was the yes part?
Well, we had a lot of dehydrated food, eggs, milk, potatoes, onions, whatever. For some spam. I didn't mind spam. So none of the guys trouble about spam, but I didn't mind spam too bad. But
Did,
there's,
did you ever run low of supplies while you were on board?
oh yes, it did sometimes. Yes, yeah.
How did you make do?
Well, they get a lot of beans or rice.
Did you have any good luck charms or superstitions that you acquired while you were in the
No,
Navy?
no,
Did some of the other sailors?
not that I know of really.
Uh, Besides pinochle, did you have any entertainment that they put on for you?
But if it was in a port or it was out of the Japanese uh, plane area where they have night movies, put a screen up on the cargo net, like on the cargo booms, and out on the main deck have movies. And there's exchange if they, uh, maybe if they're lucky, they can get a different movie every night if they're there. But I never was much. I didn't care too much for movies. I was on the crew of the skipper of the ship, and he was a party man. And lots of times we'd take him into a island where they had the officers' quarters, and maybe we'd sit there until 1 o'clock, 2 o'clock in the morning, and wait for him to decide to come back.
Did you take him in on the landing craft?
Yeah, he had his own landing craft fixed up. I had it fixed up a little better than ordinary landing crafts.
Did when you were on shore, did you get a chance to engage in any fun activities or relaxing diversions from military life?
Oh, very little, very little. Get into a softball game once in a while to pitch some horseshoes.
How about the food? Did you eat any of the native food of the South Sea Islands?
Well, uh, New Zealand, of course, that wasn't no South Sea Island. That was way down below tip of Australia, if you know your geography. And we'd get good food down there whenever it was. I think we went down there 3 different times. And they had good food. It was different than American food, but you go into the better restaurants there, they didn't have no menu. You just said, I want my dinner, and you got what they brought you, which was usually a pretty nice piece of beef and a couple of eggs. I don't know how they fixed them. They wasn't sunny side, or they wasn't really what you call hard fried, just kind of mid in between, and then had potatoes maybe. And usually had a fresh vegetable because there at Auckland they had about the same seasonal weather as California had. The only thing that the south of the equator, they had winter and we had summer, and summer we had winter. So
How was that food compared to what you ate on board the ship?
it's just as good as the best they put on board ship. Yeah, but the coffee was terrible. Of course, being an English in Commonwealth, why they were tea drinkers, and they'd make coffee. They'd take hot water and pour a little dark liquid in it, and that was coffee. But for them, it wasn't. It wasn't very appetizing.
Uh, have you made use of your military benefits since you've been discharged from the military?
like we, I mean, yeah, I went to GI school when I was working on a farm for agricultural school.
Can you,
Well, like, other than that, I've gotten hearing aid help from the Veterans Administration.
do
Other than
you,
that,
do you have any reflections or lessons that you would like to leave to the present or future generations about your military service and service to our country?
well, I don't know. I I don't approve the way the presidents are reducing our military strength. I think he's inviting trouble, and I I think it's a terrible way to them treating the veterans. It's all that goes all the way back to the president. The buck stops there. He don't he doesn't he always blames on somebody else, but he's the boy in charge.
Is there anything that you feel that we have not discussed that you would like to add to this interview, Mr. Blickhan?
Yeah, some of it I'd rather not talk about.
You certainly don't have to talk about anything you don't want to talk about, but if there's anything else that you'd like to share with us, we certainly would be honored to record what you have to say, and so that we who are with you today and future generations will be able to understand your feelings about your service to our country.
Well, I've never regretted that I served in the World War Korean War. I, I had very little to do with it, but then I done my best, and I'm be glad that returning servicemen are being treated more like citizens. And I know when I come home from the Korean War, well, especially when I left, I got on the train at 2 o'clock in the morning. There was 12 of us going to St. Louis. And there was nobody there to cheer us off. Same when I come home, I hitchhiked home from Norfolk, Virginia to Quincy. That was it, you know. Just glad to be home.
Is there anything else you'd like to add?
No, I think that covers it pretty well.
Well, we certainly
If you
appreciate it.
got, maybe if you'd ask me questions you want to, maybe I can, you know.
I've exhausted the questions that are on the sheet. So there's a lot of questions I'd like to ask you, but I don't know that we have enough time to record it all. But it was certainly been a pleasure and an honor to speak with you today. And I know that everybody with the Illinois State Historical Society and the Library of Congress, thank you for your service to your country and your participation in this very worthy effort. So with that, we will conclude the interview. Thank you.
All right, thank you.